Hello there, travelers. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, a series that I would like to introduce as Quirky Cooking. And today we're going to be taking a page out of the Elder Scrolls cookbook to make none other than Sweetrolls, because it is my birthday this week and I would like to celebrate as authentic as possible Skyrim traveler with my campsite back here on my property, and try to make some Sweetrolls on the campfire, which is currently behind the campfire. Also in the, can I lift this with one hand? Cast iron skillet. Hopefully I just didn't get myself all dirty. And hopefully that won't be a huge challenge. Any other videos I saw that were making Sweetrolls did it in an oven. And I know that working with yeast isn't always the easiest thing. I also have the added challenge of working with gluten-free flour because I have celiac disease, so me and gluten are not friends. And if you've ever cooked with gluten-free flour and know that struggle, well, it's a struggle. So hopefully this isn't an epic fail, but either way, you're gonna come along for that journey. All right, so we're gonna get started with the baking portion here, or rather the mixing portion. So the first step is to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Of course, my oven is a campfire, so that'll be interesting because I don't know how hot it's going to be. So anyway, next is a large bowl. Combine the butter, warm milk, and honey. So instead of combining it in a large bowl, I'm actually going to use this kind of cowboy coffee maker with the actual thing that you put the coffee in removed, so that I can heat my milk over the fire. I'm trying to do this as close to how someone might do it if they were actually in the whatever time frame Skyrim was in. I'm assuming it's like, well, I know it's like medieval times of some sort, but anyway, so we have a cup of 2% milk. So we're gonna have that go in there. And then next is 3 tablespoons of butter melted. It's gotten pretty soft because it is quite warm outside. So we're just gonna heat those up together. Okay. So now the honey I actually have in the bowl because I'm going to heat this first and then stick it in the bowl. So be right back. Now I've got my warmed up milk, the butter, and the honey all in this bowl, so I'm just going to give that a nice whisk to really get that all mixed up together. And so after you combine those 3 ingredients, it says to add the salt and the yeast. So we're working with just a pinch of salt. So I'm hoping that constitute a pinch, and yeast is in my pocket. So now I'm hoping that this dough will still rise. In my experience, getting yeast to play nice with gluten-free anything is a challenge. So hopefully these Sweetrolls end up with that nice cone shape and don't end up with being sweet pancakes. Either way though, hopefully I have something tasty and birthday worthy. So after we get those added in and nice and mixed around, we're going to want to add our egg and flour. Working with actual sunlight filtering through the trees, creating highlights and lowlights on the table is quite a challenge to figure out how to expose. But I think that's part of the fun here, being actually out in nature and essentially camping while making this. Of course, if I actually was in Skyrim or in any kind of medieval times, I wouldn't be talking to myself in a camera, or if I was talking to myself, I would probably be labeled something other than a YouTuber. Okay, so that should be good and mixed in. Now, it doesn't say how to put in the flour. I'm assuming you don't just plop it in. So I am going to just kind of gently start mixing it in there. Okay, so hopefully that's a good close-up. It actually seems to be getting that kind of a nice fluff to it, so that seems promising. That seems like the yeast is doing its job. Now I believe, yeah, so now it needs to rise. Oh, okay, wait, hold up. So we actually need to put it, that makes sense, in the pan, and then it rises. So I'm going to put this in the pan. So I think what we'll do is we'll spoon them into kind of a little ball, and I'm going to try to, no pun intended, eyeball it into quarters. I have a sneaking suspicion now that I'm doing this that these could very well end up just in one big mass, and this may end up being like a sweet roll cake rather than 4 separate sweet rolls, but no, that's okay. Alright, so these are going to have to rise for 30 minutes, and once they rise, they're going to go on the fire for, so the recipe says 15 to 20 minutes. That could vary though, considering I'm doing this on a fire, and I don't really have a way to test how hot the fire is, so that is going to be all part of the fun. Alrighty, so it has been over 30 minutes. Decided to give our sweet rolls here a little more time to rise, and as you can see, my prediction of it being more like a sweet cake came true. I think that's about as much as they're going to rise since they're kind of crammed together there, so these bad boys are ready to go on the oven, which is just like this. I'm gonna slide it on over. 2 hands, that's kind of heavy. So that's gonna hang out for, as I said, the recipe says 15 minutes. I'm gonna check them in 15 minutes, but again, I don't know exactly how hot that fire is. Normally you would bake these in a 350 degree oven, so we shall see. Alright, while our sweet rolls are in the oven, I'm gonna actually get started on the frosting. So I already have the, not whipped cream, cream cheese, 2 tablespoons, and 1 tablespoon of butter, softened. Well, I think that's softened enough in there. And now we're gonna add half a cup of powdered sugar. And then the instructions say to add the heavy cream gradually, just enough so that you get a smooth icing that just barely drips off the spoon. I'm assuming you really want that thick icing with this because typically the sweet roll would be a more cone volcanic shape, and you wouldn't want a thin icing that's just gonna all the way down. But considering my sweet rolls are probably going to be more like a cake, I think having a thinner consistency is not going to matter as much. Nonetheless though, I'm going to try to follow this recipe as close as possible. Let's get that out of there, and I'll add maybe like half-ish of that. Switch to the fork. These guys have been baking for quite some time, and They definitely ended up, like I said, more like a cake, which not a shock because I cooked them in a flat pan. But it's time to ice these guys. They got a little dismantled and dismembered trying to flip them and cut them because I forgot to bring a knife down here, but we'll just cover that up like a happy little accident. There are, whoops, losing a little frosting. There's one of the Sweetrolls, which is more like a sweet cake, but let's go ahead and give it a taste test. Well, that's actually really good. This is the first time I've actually cooked something with gluten-free, cannot talk, it has been too many hours. Gluten-free flour where it actually comes out spongy, which I'm honestly a little surprised. I kind of figured that this would end up being a little bit disastrous, and especially with cooking this on a fire and not in an oven, that they wouldn't come out as spongy as they are. So let's see if maybe the doggo likes it. High five. Okay, close enough. Is that panda approved? You looking for more? Say that's panda approved. All right, well, I would call that a success. The dog likes it, Mom likes it, I like it, and now we are going to enjoy the rest of our evening, enjoy the Sweetrolls. Hopefully I'll have at least one of them left to have with breakfast and coffee tomorrow morning. Hopefully you enjoyed this little quirky cooking episode, and hopefully God will have more of them in the future. Bye for now.